Story 1. The Echo on the Bridge. I've never been the type of person who believes in gut feelings or sixth senses. I'm a forensic accountant by trade. I deal in hard data, spreadsheets, and paper trails. If I can't see it or calculate it, it doesn't exist. But after what happened last November, I've learned that sometimes the numbers don't add up, and your instincts are the only thing keeping you alive. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, a place known for its artsy vibe and incredible hiking trails. My roommate, Sarah, is a total fitness junkie. She's the kind of person who signs up for a half marathon for fun. Last fall, she finally guilt-tripped me into training with her. Because of our work schedules, we usually couldn't hit the trails until around 9 p.m. In the summer, that's fine. But in November, the sun is long gone, and the Blue Ridge Mountains get pitch black and bone-chillingly cold. Our usual spot was the Arboretum. It's technically closed at night, but there's a side entrance near the parkway that all the locals use. It's generally considered safe. Paved paths, manicured gardens, not exactly the deep wilderness. That Tuesday night, the air was dead still. You could see your breath puffing out in little white clouds with every exhale. We decided to take the Creek Loop, a 3-mile circuit that dips down into a valley, crosses an old wooden suspension bridge, and loops back to the parking lot. We were about a mile in, just hitting our stride. I was listening to Sarah talk about some drama with her barista, trying to ignore the burning in my lungs. The path here turned from pavement to crushed gravel. Crunch. 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 The rhythmic sound of our running shoes hitting the stones was hypnotic. But then, the rhythm glitched. Crunch. Crunch. It was faint, a split-second delay, like an echo bouncing off the trees. I pulled my earbud out. "Hey, hold up a sec." Sarah stopped, jogging in place. "What, you cramping?" "No," I whispered, scanning the dark tree line behind us. "Do you hear that?" Silence. Just the wind rustling the dry leaves of the rhododendrons. "Hear what?" Sarah asked, looking annoyed. I thought, never mind, let's keep going. We started running again. And within 10 seconds, the sound returned. Crunch. Crunch. It wasn't an echo. I realized it with a sick feeling in my stomach. An echo doesn't have weight. This sound had the distinct, heavy thud of rubber hitting gravel. I glanced at Sarah. Her face had gone pale. She heard it too. "Don't look back," I hissed, my accountant brain switching into survival mode. "Just speed up a little. Let's test it." We picked up the pace, moving from a jog to a solid run. The footsteps behind us sped up instantly. Thud, thud, thud. I slowed down abruptly, almost to a walk. The footsteps slowed down, matching our cadence perfectly. This wasn't just someone running on the same trail. This was mimicry. Someone was toying with us. "We need to get to the bridge," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "It's the only way back to the main road." The suspension bridge was about a quarter-mile ahead. It's one of those narrow, swaying wooden structures that crosses a dried-up creek bed. It's a natural bottleneck. "On 3, we sprint," I said. 1, 2, 3. We bolted. Adrenaline flooded my system, numbing the cold. We tore down the path, leaves blurring past us. The footsteps behind us pounded heavily, keeping pace, never getting closer, never falling behind. We hit the wooden planks of the bridge. Clomp, clomp, clomp. The bridge swayed violently under our weight. We reached the other side, and, purely out of instinct, we stopped and spun around to defend ourselves. But the bridge was empty. The footsteps had stopped the moment we hit the wood. "Where is he?" Sarah panted, clutching her knees. "I don't see him." We stared into the gaping darkness of the trail we had just exited. The bridge stretched out between us and the woods, swaying gently in the night breeze. Maybe it really was an echo?" Sarah offered, though she sounded terrified. Then we saw him. He stepped out from behind a massive oak tree right at the entrance of the bridge. He was maybe 30 yards away. He was wearing a gray, oversized tracksuit that looked like it was from the 90s. It was billowing in the wind. He stood perfectly still, his chin tucked down into his chest so we couldn't see his face. "Hey!" I yelled, my voice cracking. "Back the hell off! We have pepper spray!" We didn't. The man didn't move. He didn't speak. Instead, a sound drifted across the bridge that made my skin crawl. It was a giggle, high-pitched, wet, and unmistakably childlike. But it was coming from a 6-foot-tall man. Then, he snapped his head up. I will never forget that face as long as I live. His eyes were rolled back so far into his head that I could only see the whites gleaming in the moonlight. And he was smiling. A wide, impossible smile that stretched the skin of his cheeks until it looked like it might tear. He took one step onto the bridge. The wood creaked. Then another step. Then, without winding up, he broke into a full, erratic sprint. He wasn't running like a runner. He was flailing, his arms pumping wildly above his head, his knees kicking high, charging across the swaying bridge like a marionette with its strings cut. "Run!" I screamed. I have never run that fast in my life. I didn't feel my legs. I didn't feel the cold. All I could hear was that wet, manic giggling getting closer and closer behind us. We didn't look back. We sprinted the remaining mile to the main road, our lungs burning like they were filled with acid. We burst out of the woods and practically collapsed onto the hood of my car. I fumbled with the keys, dropped them, picked them up, and we scrambled inside, locking the doors just as we saw a grey shape emerge from the tree line. He didn't come into the parking lot. He just stood at the edge of the woods, swaying back and forth, watching us drive away. We called the police from a gas station down the road. They patrolled the area, but of course, they found nothing. Just some disturbed gravel and boot prints on the bridge. Sarah stopped running entirely after that. She took up yoga. As for me, I still work with numbers. I still look for logic in everything. But I know for a fact that there are things out there in the dark that don't follow any pattern. And I know that sometimes, when you hear an echo, you shouldn't wait to see what made the sound. Story 2. The Silent Sprinter. I grew up in a small town in Washington State, right where the suburbs bleed into the Cascade foothills. If you know anything about the Pacific Northwest, you know two things. The forests are ancient, and they have a way of swallowing sound. It's beautiful during the day, but when the sun goes down and that gray mist rolls in, it feels like the trees are closing ranks around you. I was 17 that summer, trying to save up for a car by walking dogs for the wealthy families in the new development up the hill. My favorite client was a 110-pound Rottweiler named Brutus. Despite looking like a beast that could eat a car bumper, Brutus was a total softie. He was terrified of thunder, vacuum cleaners, and squirrels. But walking him gave me a sense of invincibility. Who's going to mess with a kid holding a leash attached to a muscle-bound Rottweiler? That confidence is exactly what led me to the logging road. It was a Tuesday evening, around dusk. The sky was that bruised purple color you get right before true dark. I decided to take Brutus off the paved sidewalk and onto an old gravel logging road that cut behind the neighborhood. It was a shortcut, flanked on both sides by dense walls of Douglas fir and overgrown ferns. We were about a mile in when the woods went dead quiet. Usually you hear tree frogs, crickets, the wind in the branches. But suddenly, it was like someone hit the mute button on the world. Brutus stopped dead in his tracks. The hair along his spine stood up in a rigid ridge. He didn't bark. He let out this low, vibrating growl that I felt travel up the leash and into my hand. I followed his gaze. About 50 yards ahead, the trail curved sharply to the left. Standing behind the thick trunk of a cedar tree was a man. He wasn't wearing a mask or a costume. He was dressed in a faded red flannel shirt and dirty jeans, looking like any other local hiker or logger. But he wasn't hiking. He was leaning out from behind the tree at an unnatural angle, just enough to expose one eye and half of his face, watching us. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding thin and pathetic in the damp air. The man didn't move. He didn't blink. He just kept that one eye locked on me. A cold prickle of fear started at the base of my neck. "Come on, Brutus," I whispered, tugging the leash. "Let's go home." I turned us around, trying to keep my pace measured. "Don't run," I told myself. "Running triggers the predator instinct." I walked fast, my ears straining for any sound behind me. Crunch, crunch, footsteps. Heavy ones. I glanced over my shoulder. The man was no longer behind the tree. He was standing in the middle of the gravel road, facing my back. And in his right hand, dangling loosely by his side, was a rusty camping hatchet. The sight of the weapon bypassed all logic. I abandoned the "don't run" rule. "Run, Brutus! Go!" I yelled, breaking into a jog. I checked behind me again, and what I saw stopped my heart. The man was sprinting toward me, but it wasn't a normal sprint. It was wrong. Physically wrong. His legs were pumping with terrifying speed, but his arms weren't swinging in rhythm. They were flailing wildly above his head, flopping around like he had no bones in his elbows, like one of those wacky inflatable tube men you see at car dealerships. His head was lolling side to side with every step. He looked like a marionette being jerked forward by an invisible, angry puppeteer. But the most terrifying part was the silence. He was sprinting full tilt, closing the distance, 40 yards, 30 yards, but he wasn't making a sound. No panting, no heavy breathing, no grunts of exertion. Just the heavy thud, thud, thud of his boots on the gravel, getting louder and faster. I was sprinting now, my lungs burning, gasping for air like a drowning man. Brutus, sensing my terror, was practically dragging me down the trail. I could hear the footsteps right behind me now. I could hear the whoosh of air as his flailing arms sliced through the wind. I braced myself for the bite of the hatchet. "Come on, come on!" I screamed at the dog, tears stinging my eyes. We burst out of the tree line and onto the paved cul-de-sac of the neighborhood. The orange glow of the streetlights washed over us. I didn't stop. I ran until I was directly under a street lamp in front of a house with lights on inside. I collapsed on the curb, clutching Brutus, wheezing so hard I thought I'd pass out. I spun around to face the trail entrance, ready to fight for my life. The man was standing right where the gravel met the pavement. He had stopped instantly. He wasn't panting, he wasn't sweating, his chest wasn't heaving. He stood there, perfectly still, the hatchet hanging by his side, looking at me with a face completely void of emotion. It was like he hadn't just sprinted a mile at Olympic speeds. He looked at me, then tilted his head slowly to look at the street lamp buzzing above me. Then, without a word, he turned around and walked back into the darkness of the forest. He walked calmly, casually, like he was just out for an evening stroll. I sat there for 20 minutes, too terrified to move, waiting for my dad to come pick me up. I never walked that trail again. I quit the dog walking job a week later. To this day, I can handle horror movies. I can handle gore. But what I can't handle is silence. Because I know that sometimes the things that want to hurt you don't need to breathe. Story 3. The Long Game. People usually think of stalkers as impulsive. We imagine them as crimes of passion, someone snapping, losing control, and acting in the heat of the moment. But I learned the hard way that sometimes it's a project. Sometimes they're willing to wait years for the stars to align. I grew up in rural Kansas. If you've never been there, picture an endless grid. The roads are perfectly straight, intersecting at 90-degree angles every mile, surrounding massive squares of corn and soybeans. It's quiet. It's safe. Everyone knows everyone. At least that's what we tell ourselves. I'm a cyclist. Out here, it's the only way to keep your sanity without driving 2 hours to a city. By the time I was 18, I was training for my first triathlon, logging about 20 to 30 miles a day on these empty county roads. This story actually starts 8 years before the incident, when I was 10 years old. I was playing in my front yard one afternoon when a beat-up navy blue sedan slowed to a crawl in front of our driveway. The window rolled down, and a man leaned out. He had distinct bleach blonde hair that looked crispy from too much dye, and a jagged white scar running along his jawline. He waved a crisp $20 bill at me. "Hey, buddy," he smiled. "I lost my puppy. Can you come help me look in the back seat?" I was a kid, but I wasn't stupid. I turned and ran inside, screaming for my dad. My dad, being a Kansas farmer, came out to the porch with a 12-gauge shotgun in about 10 seconds flat. By the time he got there, the sedan had peeled out, disappearing into the dust. We filed a report, but nothing came of it. We forgot about it. Just a creepy encounter in a small town. Fast forward 8 years. I'm 18, fit, and spending hours alone on my bike. About a month before the incident, I started noticing traffic patterns. When you ride the same routes every day, you memorize the cars. Farmer John's truck, the mail carrier, the school bus. But I started seeing 2 new vehicles. One was that same navy blue sedan, only now the paint was peeling and it had a donut tire on the back left. The other was a brand new cherry red pickup truck with tinted windows. They were never together. I'd see the truck parked by a mile marker on Monday. I'd see the sedan driving slowly past me on Tuesday. I rationalized it. Just farmhands, just traffic. But the net was tightening. I just didn't see it. Last July, to beat the oppressive heat, I switched my ride time from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. The sun is just coming up, and the mist is still hovering over the corn. I was 5 miles from home, on a paved county road, when I looked in my rearview mirror. The blue sedan was there. It wasn't passing me. It was matching my speed, staying exactly 50 yards back. I turned right at the next intersection. The sedan turned right. I pedaled harder, pushing 25 miles per hour. The sedan sped up, maintaining the distance. Panic started to set in. I knew these roads. I knew there was a gravel service road coming up on my left that cut through the cornfields. A car could drive on it, but it was rough. I figured I could lose him in the dust. I swerved onto the gravel, my thin tires skidding. I pushed with everything I had, my legs burning. I looked back. The sedan had turned onto the gravel. He wasn't hiding it anymore. He was accelerating, kicking up a cloud of dust, closing the gap. I rode for about a mile, my heart hammering against my ribs, focused entirely on the car behind me. Then, I looked forward. My blood froze. Parked horizontally across the narrow gravel road, blocking the entire path, was the cherry-red pickup truck. It was a trap. A pincer movement. They knew I took this route. They knew the gravel road had no outlet. They had coordinated this. I slammed on my brakes, skidding to a halt about 20 feet from the truck. Behind me, the blue sedan stopped, blocking my retreat. The driver's door of the red truck opened. A man stepped out. He was older now, maybe in his 40s, heavier, but I recognized him instantly. The bleach-blonde hair was thinning, but the scar on his jaw was still there. He leaned against the truck door, crossed his arms, and smiled. "Long time no see, kid," he said. His voice was calm, terrifyingly casual. He reached into the truck bed and grabbed a coil of rope. I didn't think. I didn't try to turn the bike around. I did the only thing a vehicle couldn't do. I unclipped my shoes, lifted my carbon fiber bike onto my shoulder, and threw myself blindly into the cornfield to my right. "Get him!" the man screamed. I sprinted into the corn. If you've never been in a mature cornfield, it's like a jungle. The stalks are 7 feet high, the leaves are sharp like paper cuts, and you can't see 3 feet in front of you. I heard car doors slamming. I heard them crashing through the stalks behind me, cursing. "Go left! Cut him off!" But they were 2 middle-aged men in heavy boots. I was an 18-year-old triathlete running on pure adrenaline. I zigzagged through the rows, silent and fast, letting the corn swallow me. I ran until my lungs bled. I didn't stop until I hit a farmhouse 3 miles away. I banged on the door until an old woman answered, and I collapsed on her porch. When the sheriff went back to the service road, the cars were gone. But the tire tracks were there. They found muddy boot prints entering the corn, stopping about 50 yards in where they realized they couldn't catch me. The detective sat me down later. He told me that based on the precision of the trap, they hadn't just seen me that morning. They had likely been watching me for months, learning my schedule, mapping my routes, waiting for me to be old enough, or maybe just waiting for the perfect moment where no one was watching. I don't ride a bike anymore. I moved to Chicago the next year. I live in a high-rise with a doorman and cameras in the lobby. But sometimes, when I'm walking down the street and I see a rusted blue sedan, my hands start to shake. I wonder how long they waited. And I wonder if they're still waiting for someone else.